Be honest with yourself. How many times have you studied English grammar, memorized every rule, done endless exercises, watched hours of lessons? And yet, when it's time to speak, your mind goes blank. You know the rule, but your mouth refuses to follow it. You hesitate, you pause, you doubt every sentence before it comes out. And here's the uncomfortable truth. It's not because you're bad at English, it's because you're learning grammar the wrong way. What if I told you grammar was never your real problem, but the way you've been studying it is what's holding you back? In this video, I'm going to show you a modern 8-step system that will completely change how you learn grammar so you don't just understand English, you actually use it in real conversations with confidence. Here's the truth most learners never realize. Grammar is not the enemy. It's not something dry, complicated, or impossible to understand. Grammar is actually a tool, a powerful one. It helps you build clear sentences, express your ideas, and communicate exactly what you think without confusion. But the problem is, most people are using it the wrong way. They treat grammar like a subject to study instead of a skill to use. So they memorize rules, complete exercises, and watch lessons, but never connect it to real speaking or writing. That's why when they try to talk, everything breaks down. So let's fix that. In this video, I'll walk you through a modern 8-step master plan to learn grammar effectively, without boredom, without confusion, and most importantly, with real results in speaking and writing. But before we go deeper, understand this shift clearly. You don't learn grammar to know it, you learn grammar to use it. Now let's start with the first strategy, the one that changes everything for beginners and intermediate learners alike. 1. Start with your own mistakes. Personalized learning. Most learners make a critical mistake here. They follow textbooks from beginning to end. But that's inefficient, because you don't need everything. You only need what you're actually struggling with. Instead of learning random rules, do this. Write short paragraphs every day. Get them corrected using a teacher or AI, and track your most repeated mistakes. Find your top 5 grammar errors and focus only on those, because when you fix real mistakes, you improve faster than anyone memorizing 100 rules. Now let's go deeper into something most learners completely ignore. Why do you keep making the same grammar mistakes again and again, even after studying them? The answer is simple. You're treating symptoms, not causes. Every grammar mistake comes from 2 root problems, form and meaning. Let's break it down. First is form. This is the structure problem. It's when the sentence is built incorrectly. For example, I have went. Here the structure is wrong, the verb form is incorrect. Second is meaning. This is the usage problem. It's when you use the right structure, but in the wrong situation. For example, I have been there yesterday. The grammar form may feel close, but the timing is wrong. Now here's the key insight. If you don't understand why something is wrong, you will repeat it forever. Not because you're careless, but because your brain never learned the pattern behind the mistake. So instead of memorizing corrections, you must start identifying patterns. Ask yourself every time, is this a structure problem or a usage problem? That one question alone can transform your learning speed. 3. Learn grammar through sentences, context first. Now let's fix another major mistake. Most people learn grammar like this: rule to example to forget. But your brain doesn't remember rules in isolation. It remembers meaning, emotion, and context. So we reverse the process. Instead of starting with rules, start with real sentences. For example, instead of memorizing, present perfect equals have plus V3. You learn like this: I've just finished my work. She's lived here for 5 years. Now your brain is not storing a formula, it's storing real-life usage, and that changes everything. Because when you speak in real life, you don't recall rules, you recall patterns. This is how fluency actually starts forming silently in your brain. You stop translating, you start reacting naturally. And that's the real goal of grammar learning, not perfection, but automatic response. Now let's move to something that creates fast speaking improvement, even if your grammar is not perfect yet. 4. Use the template method. Most learners think grammar is something you learn step by step, but in reality, your brain learns faster when it sees repetition inside a structure. That's where the template method comes in. Instead of learning isolated rules, you build a simple sentence frame, then reuse it again and again. For example, take this basic template. I have never. Now, instead of studying it as a rule, you use it immediately. I have never tried sushi. I've never traveled abroad. I've never seen snow. What's happening here is powerful. You are not memorizing grammar, you are automating it. The structure becomes familiar, natural, almost effortless. And the best part? You can speak immediately without thinking too much because your brain already knows the pattern. 5. Turn grammar into reflex, automation. Now let's go one level deeper. Your final goal is not to think about grammar. Your goal is to react with it. Right now, most learners pause before speaking because they are mentally checking rules. Is this correct? Which tense should I use? Am I making a mistake? That hesitation kills fluency, so instead you need to train your brain to respond automatically. How? Simple. Repeat sentences out loud. Use them in real conversations. Practice the same structures again and again in different situations. Because grammar is not mastered through understanding alone, it is mastered through repetition. Here's the golden rule. You don't learn grammar by understanding it. You learn it by repeating it until it becomes automatic. At this stage, you stop translating in your head. You start speaking before you even think, and that's where real fluency begins to appear naturally. 6. Use flashcards plus spaced repetition. Now let's talk about something most learners completely ignore: memory. Because here's a hard truth. If you don't review what you learn, your brain deletes it. Not because you're weak, but because that's how memory works. So if you study grammar once and never revise it, it disappears. That's why smart learners use a system, spaced repetition. Here's how you apply it simply. Take sentences you create yourself, not textbook ones. Turn them into flashcards. Fill in the blank error correction. Rewriting exercises. For example, she blank live here for 5 years. Now your brain actively recalls the answer instead of passively reading it. You can use tools like Anki or Quizlet, but the real power is not the app. It's repetition over time. Because when you see the same structure again and again at different intervals, it locks into long-term memory, and suddenly grammar becomes easier without extra effort. 7. Compare with your native language. Now let's fix another silent problem that blocks fluency. Translation thinking. Most learners don't realize it, but they think in their native language first, then translate into English. And that's where mistakes are born. For example, native thought, "Mujhe yahan 5 saal ho gaye hain." Direct translation, I live here 5 years. Correct English, I have lived here for 5 years. See the gap? The structure doesn't transfer directly. So instead of translating sentence by sentence, you should compare patterns. Ask yourself, how does English express this idea? How does my language express it differently? This comparison creates deep awareness, and over time your brain stops translating. It starts thinking directly in English patterns. That's when fluency becomes real, not forced, because you are no longer converting words. You are generating sentences naturally. 8. Make grammar part of your life. Now we come to the most important shift of all. If grammar stays something you study, you will always struggle with it. But if grammar becomes something you live, it becomes natural. Most learners separate learning from real life. They study grammar in books, then forget it in daily conversation. That's the mistake. Instead, you need to blend grammar into your everyday routine. Here's how. Start writing a short daily journal in English. Even 3 to 5 lines are enough. Comment in English on social media posts. Think in simple English phrases during your day. Try speaking small sentences out loud, even when alone. because grammar improves fastest when it's used in real situations, not just practice sheets. The formula for real mastery. There's a simple equation you should remember. Input, reading plus listening, plus output, speaking plus writing, equals natural grammar. If you only consume information, you won't improve. If you only practice speaking without input, you will feel stuck. But when you combine both consistently, grammar starts to feel automatic. Final truth about grammar. Let's make this very clear. Grammar is not complicated rules, boring exercises, something to memorize. Grammar is a tool to express ideas, a skill you build daily, a system you refine through use. And here's the most important line in this entire video. You don't master grammar by studying rules. You master it by using it every single day. Not once a week, not sometimes, every day. So start today. Write a few sentences, notice your mistakes, fix them, repeat what you learn, and use it in real-life conversations. Because grammar is not something you memorize, it's something you build, step by step, day by day.
And if you stay consistent, you won't just improve your grammar. You'll transform the way you speak English forever. See yous in the next video.